Welcome to the Unlock Your Culture webcast, a monthly discussion about preserving traditional fire service culture in the modern setting. With your hosts, Sean Duffy, Pablo Jenner, John Hayowick, and Mark Alone. We hope you enjoy the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Unlock Your Culture webcast. As always, I am co-host Mark Alone. I have Chief Extraordinaire John Hayowick with us this evening, and hopefully Duffy will stop by. He's working, and Pablo is immersed in fatherhood, so I don't know that we'll see him, but hey, awesome for him, right?
Absolutely. And that's the new arrival. So the new arrival, Pablo has a son now, which is awesome, which sort of takes him, throws him right into the I have no idea what I'm going to do with my time besides try and sleep. And
you can already see it on his face, right? I can watch him change to fatherhood with every Facebook post. It's pretty amusing. So
absolutely.
So yeah, we've been gone here for a few months. What turned into a month off for summer break turned into about a quarter of summer break as the Rona continued to control us, and some teaching came back, some travel came back for most of us, and pretty much all of us had some pretty major life events going on over the summer, which took us away from the webcast. But we wanted to get started again and get rebooted. And so we decided to have a little catch-up episode and talk about life, talk about personal life, fire life, training life, and start planning for next month, where hopefully we'll have another pretty good guest for you guys. So, I don't know, John, how do you want to go here? You want to start it off?
I don't know. Well, what was our last show is what? June?
So our last show was my buddy Dave. I'm going to slaughter his names. I suck with names.
Okay, so but it was Dave. I was just looking for time.
Dorico. He was putting on the Fire Doesn't Care conference up in Ohio, which I got to go to.
That's right.
Absolute freaking blast, man. He did a great job with that thing. First year doing it, I think my room.
That was a benefit one, correct? If I can remember.
Yeah, he had a bunch of charities who all the profits went to charity. It wasn't a dime for him or anything like that. He was just doing it to do it. He had a dream about putting on a fire conference, and then woke up the next day and told his wife, like, hey, I'm real sorry, but we're gonna make this happen. And she's awesome, man. She was cool too, real supportive. But I bet there was over 100 people in that room when I went up there and taught for him. Huge room.
Wow.
Motivated people. I hate that I couldn't stay for the hands-on stuff because I had Firehouse Expo the next week and I was already on borrowed time with work and the family. But yeah, he's up there in Northern Ohio, man. And, struggles like everybody's got in the area. They do a lot of cross staffing and stuff, but you got, like everybody else has in their region, you've got this little, community of passionate people that want to better the fire service, right? They've got everything we've got. They've got low manpower, they've got mutts, they've got motivated, they've got ambulances, they've got ladder trucks, like the whole 9 yards. So but yeah, I think he's about an hour, if I remember right, hour southeast of Cleveland, if I remember right. So my first time in that area. But yeah, I stayed. Actually ended up coming home early to see the kids because they were kind of bummed that I was going to be gone for a long time. But I stayed, got to listen to some cool speakers while I was out there. Got to meet some people, put some more Facebook friends with real friends kind of thing, and I had a good time. So awesome job Dave did, especially for first year. You never would have known it.
Wow, that's great.
Pretty seamless from the instructor / student side. I'm sure behind the scenes he was probably a train wreck. I know we were kidding with him. I don't think he slept for like the week leading up to it and then the week of, but yeah, everything I could tell, it went really well for them. They raised a good bit of money. They had some cool raffles, which I didn't win. I want to recount, by the way. There was some cool stuff to put your tickets in there. But yeah, good crowd, great people, and real good time.
And that's awesome. I'm glad you were able to get out to that. The summer was the summer, doing the family stuff and, staying busy with work and always some changes and how things go with that. And unfortunately this summer I got hit with a medical issue that put me sidelined for a little bit, and then I was able to recuperate, and that's why I look a little scruffy right about now. If you can see, I had surgery just about a week and a half ago on post-op for an abdominal issue that I had, and based on, wasn't directly work related, but heredity and some of the things that we deal with in the fire service, and some stress issues. And stress is never good for the body. You know, there's been a lot of new studies on that, and there's old studies on that. So I had to have surgery, and now I'm recuperating. Looks like I'm going to be out of service for about a month or so. Hopefully things go well. Surgery went remarkable, but that started out, and that trail started for me back in August after having a third bout of diverticulitis, which hospitalized me for a couple of days. And then had to speak with my GI doc and then the surgeon, and they put me on a lovely, hey, you can only eat this, and you got to get to the middle of October by only eating this to keep everything happy. And
you took it better than I would have. I'll give you that, because you skipped over a good part of your summer, which was Expo, right? So we got to hang out.
Finally. Well, I'm going back, so I'm bouncing.
Say, I got too many good times with you from Expo to fast forward that quick. So.
No. It was, I'll tell you right now, for me, there was once I guess similar to us, and I'll throw this to EJ too, because EJ and I talk. Once you get a date or a goal in mind, and you figure how to get to that goal, how to make it happen. And for me, physically, I had to make that happen, because the surgery that I didn't want to have happen didn't happen, because I was able to keep my body in a proper way to keep myself out of trouble, keep the inflammation down and stuff like that. Because the surgery that potentially was out there could have been, in my mind, would have been career ending for me. So I definitely had a goal in mind, and my type A personality kept me in check with that. And my wife as well, which I love her. She's dealt with this with me for a long time now. But we were so lucky to be able to get back to Firehouse Expo out in Columbus was a blast. Fairly decently attended, I would say, because coming from, we had COVID in 2020, which nothing went down. And before that, it was Nashville, which I would have loved to have taught in Nashville, but everything got put on hold. And, but you know what, it was awesome to see the brothers all together. We all were luckily enough in the same hotel, it seemed, if not walking distance. So we're able to come down, get into the lobby, and you never knew who was going to be in the lobby at the restaurant area or the adult beverage area, where I was relegated to cranberry juice and Sprite.
Yep. So it's Cosmo, the John Cosmo. I'll tell you what, man, I'll be honest about it. Like I had my apprehensions about going to Columbus, because, Firehouse has brought me to San Diego, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Nashville, and then they're like Columbus, Ohio. I'm like, oh God, Columbus, what's there? Columbus, Ohio is a great city.
It was a really cool city. So yeah, I had that same conversation. I was chatting with Peter Matthews. I'm like, hey, what's Columbus? He goes, what's Indianapolis? I'm like, okay, right. You don't need a big venue. No, FDIC pulls in thousands upon thousands of firemen, and it's been established there for forever. Firehouse has bounced around a little bit, a lot more than FDIC has, but what a great little city.
Yeah,
it was nice. It was clean. It was a ghost town at sometimes, but come Saturday afternoon for the Ohio State game, that place was packed. You couldn't get a seat at a bar or at a restaurant.
The hockey arena's downtown, the soccer stadium's downtown. I mean, you could have walked from where we were at the convention center. I think it was a mile to soccer. I almost went the first night because I got in before everybody else was going to go catch a soccer game by myself, and luckily went to the worst serviced restaurant in town. That was you talk about a train wreck, EJ. Oh my, this poor girl. I think she quit being a waitress. I really do, because she had, what was it, John? 14 of us, right? And we were outside. None of us knew what we wanted. She didn't have any of the beer. And it was literally her
and
first
the food
day.
was running out. They were running out of
Food
food.
was running out. It was a mess. I think poor Starnes got stuck with the entire bill. I think he made money though because everybody
He
was
made money.
Venmoing
He's got
him.
a write off on that deal.
Yeah, so but man, this poor girl, I just watched her. We had the fire service conversation, right? About we're watching this poor girl and like she's clearly not trained or prepared for what she's getting into, and they threw her to the wolves. And we had the whole wrap around back to the guy or girl at their first day at the fire station, and kind of the same effect, right? We joked because we didn't see her anymore. Like I literally think she decided, like, hey, waiting tables is not for me. Like I'm done. And
And
she
we
was a
we are
sweetheart.
actually being good. In all fairness, we had a really good group of guys that wasn't
Great
causing a
group.
problem. And you want to name drop? Go ahead.
No, I mean all the inside
Hold
guys.
on. I gotta save a seat.
I'm gonna forget somebody. That's the thing. I mean, we had the inside guys with Starnes, me, you. Who else was there? Ben Martin came like in the middle of all of it and somehow got food before me. I'm forgetting people. Chief Lively, John Lively was there.
Chief Lightly, yeah. John was there he was with the Insight guys, and
Yep.
we had Dixon. We had
Dixon
Chief
was
Dixon
there
with us.
The New Jerseyans together, and they were little.
And Daly as well.
Mhm.
So
Salt in my wounds, boys. Salt in my wounds.
Yeah,
come on. We invited you a long time ago to come out and play. You just needed to know.
I'm not a fanboy usually, EJ, but when you don't get to travel for over a year, you just get excited to see these guys again. So,
No, I hear you.
but hey, I think the coolest part of Expo John, honestly, for me, has nothing to do with me. It was getting to be there while you and your dad got to teach together for the first time. How freaking cool is that?
That was really cool, and I got to thank Peter Matthews for that. So Sean wasn't able to make it down because we have our managing everyday incidents class, our 2-hour class, and my father and I have been teaching with our company Beyond the Basics Fire Training since 2016, and we've been teaching together long before that. And my dad was actually coming out to watch me teach, and it was awesome. And with Sean not being able to teach and not being able to make Expo, I asked Peter, I said, do you mind if I have my father teach alongside me? And he said, no. And I'm like, you mean I can bring him? He's like, absolutely. So my dad was there with me, and, to teach on a national stage, because that was my first time teaching pretty much at a national convention on my own merit. I taught fire engineering with David Hesselmeyer doing our grant class. But Sean and I were together with that, and I had my commanding my first 30 minutes and beyond, which I taught to close the conference on Saturday. But on Friday afternoon, I got to teach my dad at a national conference, which was just awesome. He got me into the fire service many, many years ago. I was born with a pair of rubber boots on, and I just ever since then. And the funny part is, where he started out as a civil defense firefighter or an auxiliary firefighter is where I'm a career fireman for the city of Passaic. So he started out there, and then he's been a volunteer my whole life. And I followed him into it. And at 18 is the soonest I can get in. I did it. And then I sort of took over from there and got my instructor, and he followed after me with that. And the roles sort of reversed and switched. But it's fun teaching with my dad. I love building props with him. Actually, Mark, he's going to be down at the North Florida Fire Expo. He's going to be down teaching with us for our through the law class, our advanced through the law class.
Well, I think I'm paying my way this year because I got selected to teach, so I can't go with the department. So now I'm going to probably be in your class this year, and after I float around and inject myself in everybody's hands-on training for 20 minutes at a time, like I usually do when I go to these things, because I'm just kind of an army of one, I guess. I'm the loner, right? Like, no pun on my last name, but I'm the guy that just wanders. Everybody else has these big groups of people they're part of, and then there's just my dumb ass who shows up and bounces around with everybody. But
we love you, Mark.
Yeah, it was cool for me though, because I got to do that roundtable thing, and I got to thank Peter Matthews as well. Like, what a great dude. Especially with finding new talent in the fire service. Like, every time I go to one
taking
of these
a chance
things, yeah, like I meet people that you don't hear about a lot, and then in the next 3 and 4 and 5 years, they're everywhere. And so he's just kind of got a knack for finding those people. And so hooked up with some great people on this roundtable. We just talked about culture in the fire service, real kind of intimidating. You're in the middle of the expo floor with all the vendors around you, sitting on a stage, and people just come sit in a chair and it's like, okay, talk. Okay, what do we talk about? But I think the conversation went well. Ironically, and it went completely different than I thought. We tried to get the audience involved, and it was actually the older guys that had a lot more to say than the younger people, which was totally perfect. But we got John's dad involved in that too, which is awesome. So, what you got, EJ?
No, I was just saying it's really awesome to hear from the older crowd about culture, because I don't know, you don't expect it, or at least maybe not in a positive way.
Well, so what I kind of took from it, right, and it's funny. I think I'm getting at my point in my career now where like I am one of the older guys. I guess I still look like I'm 6, but like my years are adding up. And so what I've started to notice is that the older generation gets bashed really for no reason, right? And it's just because until you experience that transition in your career when everything isn't new anymore, you don't really understand it. And I'm finally getting in that point now where like the classes, the formal training is getting repetitive, right? And like company drills are fun, but I understand why people get bored with them at some point. Like you got to do them, right? I'm sure that, the Braves are probably bored with batting practice, but guess what? They're going to World Series this year, but because they went to batting practice. And so kind of the same mindset, but I think that what I notice the most is that the young people are the louder voice because they understand the technology more. They're more vocal on social media. And let's be honest, they're kind of naive. And then you have the older crowd that's been there, done that, knows the complications of kind of taking that route and the implications of putting it out there. And I think that they have a voice. They're just a little more tactical in how they use it and how they apply it. And so I found that all the classes I've been teaching lately, the people that come up to me after the class are not the young people who I thought would be inspired by, hey, go out there, train, love the job. It's the older guys that are coming up and saying like, hey, like, didn't expect to get this out of your class, but like, we agree with all these things you're saying. It's real nice to hear somebody acknowledge, that there is talent in the experienced people and that you're not just singling us out. And so I think that's maybe an untapped kind of resource in the fire service. Maybe it's us that have taken that whole, where we used to value experience so much, and because a lot of people don't have it anymore, we kind of put it out to pasture when reality we probably shouldn't have,
And those we'll go back into the volunteer world because that's where I think you see more of that.
Yeah.
That's that senior man. I don't see the senior man playing a big role in the volunteer fire service as much as it does in the career fire service.
No.
Yeah.
You agree, EJ?
Agree. Absolutely agree.
I think these senior guys may have done their rotation through the up and down the line and been through it again and again, getting voted back in for chief or a captain or whatever else. And then they're allowed to ride off into the sunset. And I think the newer guys coming in aren't taking advantage of that information that's available. When my dad and I teach my first 30 minutes class, I talk about a chief's aide. One of the best chief's aides is a past chief.
Absolutely.
If you're on a scene and you got a good fire going or a good job or incident, whatever it is, you can't listen to everything. You can do your best to listen to everything, but you're not going to listen 100%. Getting that person next to you that is on the same page as you and knows what to listen for is an ace in the hole and will elevate your game and raise your accountability and situational awareness to the nth degree, because they know what they're listening for and you know what they're listening for, and they're there to help you. And again, you by asking them for their assistance keeps them within the game and keeps them interested in more.
It's funny you bring that up because that's literally my first 2 years as a volunteer, because we were the day crowd, right? It was the college kids and the retired past chiefs. And
That's my dad. He's a driver right now. My dad's 70. Yeah. He's going to kill me. 71, 72 maybe. And he's the daytime driver. And exactly. I'm like, hey, we're not going in anymore. Right, Pop? Well, I get my fit test. I'm like, I know. And the funny thing is when I just said that, I could hear him saying that.
He's itching.
He knows. And I love my Pop and he can do it. But again, he even says it's a young man's game. but I know if something push came to shove during a daytime run, he'd pack up and do what he had to do.
Yeah,
I might have to chew him on it afterwards after I hug him and everything for a bit. But
you gotta love that he's got a young man heart, though, right? Like that's where
always,
that fire is. And but man, I learned more on those daytime calls because obviously, like here I am, what like freaking 18 years old, and I'm riding in the seat because I beat the other 19-year-old behind me to the station, so I got up there and I'm thinking I'm somebody, I'm in charge, I'm running this call. No, this past chief who's been doing this, for 35 years is running the call, and I have no idea, but he's not doing it in a way that steals that from me, right? He's developing, tell me what to say on the radio, tell me what to look for, right? Like he's guiding me, and we have lost that in a lot of ways. This is why I miss the volunteer fire service being such a like. That's another thing I noticed at Expo, man. When we went around and you talk to people in the room, especially instructors, like the commonality between people that are out there improving the profession is they have volunteer roots. And I'm so fearful for the future when that dies out because, as I talk about my class, the volunteer fire service is on hospice. We just can't agree to pull the plug on it yet, unfortunately, in many parts of the country. And I hope it never comes. But, if you take that out, what is the path into the fire service and how does that change the mindsets? Maybe that's where it's a job mentality is coming from because people have never done it for free. They've never sold chicken dinners, right, to put fuel in the trucks. They've never had to do it without brand new shiny stuff or without the mayor. And so I'm so scared for that. But I've noticed that theme too. Like everybody wants to match the volunteers, but the who's who of the fire service for decades now have gotten that volunteer route and they still volunteered usually after they got their career start, right?
I agree with you. My line in my bio I have 28 years in the fire service, 21 of them as a career firefighter.
Yep, exactly.
My first 7 years, when I stepped into my career department, I was already an instructor. I've already been an officer to a certain extent, and I was a fire investigator. I was stepping in already. I had to learn what my job was about, my City of Passaic job, but I knew what the fire service was about. But again, I grew up with that in my life. I had, fire helmets, rubber boots, the pedal car, fire truck, and all that stuff as a kid, because that was what I wanted to be, I guess. I never knew what I wanted to be until I got out of college and figured out that being a fireman is the best job in the world.
Absolutely.
I maintained part of my volunteer status for a long time, to the point where I probably should be doing a lot more. I don't have the time right now. When I do retire, I probably will go back to volunteering a heck of a lot more than I am and trying to share my knowledge with whatever department I'm with.
I'll say that too. Like having volunteered primarily when I was young and single, I have a new appreciation for all those guys that made time for it with a family, with young kids at home, with a 9-to-5 job, because like my volunteer part, like I didn't go last month. I couldn't. I didn't have the time between work, between travel, between family and soccer games and all these things that I didn't have enough time, right? And I hate being like that, but I never thought it would be a struggle. It's like, oh, it's 2 trainings a month and 24 hours worth of ride time. How I can do that in my sleep, right? And it's a struggle to get out there and do it because there's something else on hold,
And that's where I go back to my dad. My dad, we had myself and my 2 sisters. We were heavily engaged in sports, and he had a 9-to-5 job that he had to commute an hour each way easily, sometimes longer, and he had to travel. And I'm like, I don't understand how he did it, but he was able to maintain it and do it as an officer and a chief and stuff like that. And it was it's cool. And to talk to a lot of the guys, getting back out to talking about meeting new people out at Firehouse, and a lot, like you said, a lot of the instructors and a lot of the who's who have the roots in the volunteer fire service, whether they're currently in it or started with it.
So to bring this full circle back to where we started with it, you talk about the guys, the older generation sharing their experiences and things. And I've kind of had an epiphany with this, and I've spoke to it for years now, the difference between the generations, right? So all you hear about now is like all these young kids, they just ask why about everything. Why, right? And when I think back to it, I don't remember asking why a lot, but what I do remember was much more assertive, experienced people who would tell you the why before you could even ask for it. The way they taught, the way they explained things, the way they kind of analyzed the people, right? And so I'll give you an example. When I started in my volunteer fire department, when I first used to go to that fire department, it's old school. It has a full bar upstairs, right? The guys would come down there and drink beer on the weekend, right? Everybody lose their freaking minds about that now. But it's upstate New York. It's got a strong heritage. There was never, I can't remember one alcohol problem we ever had with that fire station, right? I never went up there and drank as an 18-year-old kid. I'd be at the fire station by myself. There's kegs on tap. I'm not up there getting drunk underage, right? You had a respect for it.
The respect, exactly.
But I remember sitting up there at that bar watching TV with these old timers, and they wouldn't talk to me. And then one day, somebody, like, they realized I wasn't going to go away, and they just kind of looked at me and said, "Who the hell are you?" "Hey, I'm Mark. You guys voted me in a couple months ago." "Well, I guess you're not going anywhere. I'm Bill. I'm John. Whoever. And it changed after that. But once they saw me coming around a lot, they gave me things to do. Like, I'm sure I asked for it, but little things like learn how to run the cascade, right? Organizing the compartments, labeling things, calling for times and numbers when you come back for run. Like, minuscule things that these guys really probably couldn't have given a shit to do. But to me, that was a gold mine, right? Here's something that I can do, right? As this young guy, improve myself. And so when they saw that initiative, they would pull me aside and say, "Hey, kid, you want to learn how to do this? You want to learn how to do that?" And I think maybe the problem now is that the kids, they ask why, but they don't show the initiative to want to learn. So, you get in this weird kind of the difference between generations and teaching and how people learn. And I think that's where we haven't bridged yet, is that the older generations, they're looking for buy-in first, right? It's like I say, right? The brotherhood has free admission, right? But maybe we should make you work a little bit for it.
Right. And Mark, before we go down that road, and you're absolutely right. And it's just like that when we get our new guys coming in. These rookies, if we tell them what to do and they do it, and it's the minuscule things in the fire service, they know, and they do it right, and they do it timely, you can trust them on the fire ground to a certain extent.
Yep.
Right. If they can follow rules, and the stupid, like, hey, why do we mop the floors 3 times a day? Because, hey, that's what the COVID thing is. And this kid's doing it every 3 times a day, every single day, or making sure he's the first one down to get the numbers, even though it's not his run. Yep. You know what? You're the rookie. That's your job. Get up and get the numbers for the companies coming back in, or for the chief, or whoever else is coming into the coming back from the run. It's about trust, and having, just like those old guys with you, they gave you little pieces of responsibility, and each one of those is a Lego, and those Legos interlock and come around, and that builds that foundation, and that foundation they'll grow, and then you'll build your house, and your house is being known as being a fireman. And hopefully you got a good one.
And that's, to me, where it's a career fire service. We need to learn how to do that and translate it to us, because what you're talking about, to me, in my experience, my little corners of the world, that's stuff you get coming up in the volunteer fire service. Now, I'm not saying there's not career departments that do that, but to me, that's, those opportunities don't come as much in the career service, because, oh, well, I get paid X amount of dollars, so I do this, and I get paid X amount of dollars here, so I do that. And it's that separation of labor by pay grade, right? Where in the volunteer fire service, it's everybody has to do everything.
Everybody's getting paid the same, nothing.
Yeah, you're there on your own accord. And so, these are the things that kind of keep me up at night as I do this a little longer, is, how do we all talk about leaving it better than we found it, but are we doing that? And if so, how do we do that? And the other thing I've noticed too is that people come into the fire service now with the goal of being a fire chief on day one. And that just baffles me, because as much as I've done in my career to prepare myself to go down that road, hopefully someday, like, that never occurred to me until, like, John's like, "No, don't do it." Right.
Don't do it. Stay where you're at.
I never had that thought.
Best position was captain on the tiller or on the tower.
Oh, stop it. Just stop. But I just never had that thought until I had done it a little while and kind of analyzed some things and sized people up and, figured out what my skill sets were and weren't. But when people come in on day one thinking, hey, my main goal here is to be the fire chief, they're not trying to prove themselves. It's all about the race to get off the truck now. To me, in a lot of ways, it's how fast can I do the things I need to do to be quote unquote qualified, right, for the next step, but without doing the work that comes with it, right? I mean, you look at now, we're promoting people at what, 4, 5, 6 years on the career side, 3 years, 2 years, it's just, it's crazy to me. Like, I promoted fast, John. Like, I was, we didn't call the lieutenant where I worked at the time, but I was the officer of a truck of a 2-man crew at 5 years, right? That's 5 years too soon, most places, if not 10, 20 years ago. I figured out a lot of things the hard way. And what I've learned from my experience is that I don't know what I don't know. And that's how I've approached everything since then, because I thought I was ready until it was me. There was nobody else there. Right, EJ?
Yeah, well, for me, it's kind of weird. It's different. I mean, you guys, it's your career. So you have a career path, you guys are goal oriented, you want to move up. And I see that in my day job. But for me, on the volunteer side, I don't look at it that way. I just wanted to be good at what I was doing. So, I never had plans of ever, moving up to captain or anything like that. So, and I'm there now. And obviously I wouldn't be there if they didn't think I could do it. But like, I still feel like I'm figuring out the firefighter part of it yet, let alone the captain, and it's kind of weird for me to think about, actually being prepared for the position, because you guys have a different mindset. You guys have a different work ethic to get there. With me, I'm just kind of just thinking about me. I just want to do better. So it's weird to think about it from different angles like that.
I'll tell you what I'm jealous of with the volunteer side, though. This is the beauty of the volunteer side to me, is that you can go be a captain for a year and then decide, like, hey, I'm not ready for this. I'm going to go be a fireman and learn how to be a better fireman until I can be a better captain. And maybe 2 or 3 years from now, I'll run for officer again. You can be a chief for a year and be riding tailboard the next year. And while that has pros and cons within the volunteer fire service, on the career side, once you take that leap, we don't go backwards often. It's very rare for people to get demoted.
Yeah, that's a negative. Yeah, that's a big negative.
In reality, what does the career side do? We promote problems away, right? We do the opposite. At least on the volunteer side, every year or two, you got a way to get rid of somebody.
You can vote them out.
On the career side, we're like, hey, you suck. Here's a promotion. Here's more responsibility and more money. Go hide in your hole, right?
Where does that? Okay. So hold on.
Fair, but
we're going to go down that. We'll go down that road.
Cool. I'm going to get a beer while you're going down that road. I'll be right back.
Well, whose responsibility is that then? Then that falls on the senior officers and the chief officer of that shift or tour or house or department to elevate that junior officer who's not as sharp or is limiting in some of the skills. So certain things that we have to work on, the easy part, as I came up through the ranks, the easy part was going to calls, responding to runs and handling fire and emergency situations. The harder stuff was more the admin aspect. And especially I learned that after getting put into the battalion chief's position and getting promoted back in December of last year. So with that, it falls down on how do you not crush somebody because they're not strong doing this or that. And you've got to figure out how to have that dance and work with them to help elevate their, whether it's report writing or it's their command presence. There's people that have been on a list, and we have lists for our first levels is lieutenant and our next is captain. So your first level supervisor, you could have been a fireman with 3 years on the job, very little experience in the street, and now you're in charge of a company. And you could be as young as probably 21 because you get on the job at 18. And now you can be in charge of guys that are 55, 56, 60. How's that going to look when you look over and senior guys like almost double your age? What credibility do you have the right to ring the bell and talk on the radio? Those are the only two things you got, So, and I look at it more of a community or a family aspect of we build our own. We got to build our own. You got to lean on our captains as a chief officer. I lean on my captains and my senior lieutenants to assist with the junior guys. But again, it's my job overall to ensure that that junior officer gets the work, gets the reps, and gets the explanation, the why of how to build them up. But again, that's not really done in the volunteers either, though. That's where that voting thing comes in. You think that he's ready? No, I don't think he's ready. All right, we're not voting him in this year. Next year.
Is it really like that though, or is it like, yeah,
I was being nice.
He's a dick, we're not promoting him, or oh yeah, he bought me ice cream after the last fire, he's definitely our next assistant chief, right? Like that's, like I said, it's not the answer, but it is something people don't look at a lot of the volunteer side, that there is at least a recourse for maybe making a bad choice with who's going to be your next officer. And I've seen a lot of good officers get bumped out of popularity contests as well. So it's the double-edged sword, but it's the same as the career side. And I laugh because we talk about being paramilitary, right? But what's the saying in the military? You're moving up or moving out, right? So you might be in charge of a crew at 20 years old in the military, but they're all 18 and 19 underneath you, right? Very rarely do you have the random stud that's 30 that decided he wanted to enlist. Most of your superiors are superior both in age and in rank and responsibility and things like that. And that's the humility side of things, I guess, in the fire service. I mean, I question something I've questioned a lot here in the past couple of years as I've talked to and met more people is, why our pay bands are so small in regards to position, right? We almost force the person out of the back seat, and I've had this conversation with people and I've heard justification both ways, right? You can't sit back there for 20 years. You're doing a disservice by not using your experience and knowledge to move up. But at the same time, there's something to be said for somebody that if you just want to be a firefighter and you don't want to write reports and you don't want to deal with people on a formal level, right? And you don't want the quote unquote headache, why do we decide that you can only be a single person with no kids pay band wise to do that? Why is there, no incentive for you to really get good, at your job, right? So they're not going to take a wide receiver and say, hey, if you're not trying to be an offensive coordinator, right, we're not going to give you another contract, right? No, we want you to be the best wide receiver you can be. We're going to pay you to be that way. And so that's another facet I ponder as I try to go to sleep at night at the station is, why can't we just give a bigger shrink the pay bands as they go up, right? Not like you start higher, but you can't go as far versus the bottom.
And I can relate that to my day job. The company I'm at now, when I started there, we had a guy that was a designer and he was probably, I don't know, mid to upper 50s when I started working there. And, I kind of had this attitude like, how could you be in this business this long and still just be a designer? Like, how have you not moved up? Fast forward 10 years and working with him and he was going into retirement. And I learned that he's probably the best designer I'll ever meet. He was completely trusted by all the project managers. They knew they could hand him something and it would be dealt with. They would go ask him for advice about designs because he had been doing it for so long and had seen so much. He was good. Then you just got to take, this is where it differs from what you were just saying, just salary increases over how many years. He's banking good coin. He doesn't have to write specs. He doesn't have to go to meetings. He doesn't have to deal with clients. He doesn't have to deal with budgets. He was the smartest guy I ever met in the fire service. He had the best gig going. And when I met him, I thought he was lazy. And I'm like, dude, the guy figured it out.
But who's to say he's good at it? That's the part we leave out, right? He's an awesome designer, but who says he has people skills? Who says because he's been doing it for 30 years that he's good at paperwork, right? That he can sit down with people and counsel them. Like, I relate it to sports a lot of the time because sports, I think, is a great crossover, right? But we've watched how many athletes go on to try to coach and fail miserably. And how many coaches have we seen that barely made the intramural team in college, but are just phenomenal with the way they see the game and the way they plan it. And to me, when you come off the floor, it's a whole different world in the fire department. And I get the whole, we want a fireman to be our chief, but nobody said they had to be a really good fireman. Like, you should be competent, right? You should know what you're doing, but the boardroom in City Hall is not the front seat of the fire engine. And we confuse that sometimes. So before I get another tangent, Duffy is here. Duffy needs to catch us up
Sean
with
Duffy.
Duffy stuff.
What's up, guys?
It's happening, bro.
We were giving our
Oh.
summer recap about our fanboy status with each other since we haven't seen each other in like a year, and how happy we were to be rolling with our homies again.
Oh, I know, man. It's been awesome. It's been a good journey so far, man. Can't complain. So it's good to be back out on the road and doing things face to face instead of on the computer, you know?
Yeah, man. We talked about Pablo had a kid. John had a disease. I got a new house. I don't think we got there. I moved. That was
Whoa,
my
hold on.
big-
John had
How's
two
your
diseases.
retaining wall going?
And Duffy, what, man? You had a big life changing summer too, man. Tell us about it.
Oh gosh, man, I moved across the country, you know, so you know, it's no big deal. I moved to Alaska, Michigan, and there's only 2 seasons here, winter and winter's coming. So, you know, it's a nice brisk, like 32 degrees right now. It's great. So,
man.
yeah, that's that, you know, but the one thing I will say off topic is, you know, family comes first, and you know, you gotta, despite everything that we do, you gotta make sure they're taken care of first before we do anything else. And that was the situation I was faced with, and I don't regret it. You know, it's actually worked out to be a positive thing. A lot more doors have opened doing that. So I would urge anybody who's listening, this career is a great career, and it'll open a ton of opportunities for you. But you know, the ones that are at home, they're the ones that make that possible for you. So don't leave them in the dust while you're moving forward through it all. So.
Well, you bring up a great segue. We've kind of been talking about, you know, moving up in your career and the difference between the old guys and the young guys and things like that. And I think what you're talking about right now is something a lot of us, you know, we're all kind of the same experience, you know, years wise, we're kind of the same age. But that part of the maturation of your career, when you kind of realize that you've been given a lot to the fire department, which is admirable, right? And I think it's necessary, but it's really easy to get off balance. And I think there's something that happens in your career, maybe about halfway through, where that balance starts coming back to full center, where you start realizing that, you know, I'd really like to work overtime because I like going to work and I like a little extra money, but I like going to my kids' soccer games too, right? And I like eating dinner with my wife and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's so true, man. And I'll tell you right now, like, I always be transparent with everybody. 17 years in the fire service next month for me, right? And a good portion, I've been married for almost 10 years, and my wife has stood by my side the whole time, and I haven't always been by her side, if that makes sense. There was a very, very long time in my career where I was selfish and it was about me. And I focused on, you know, going through all those classes, trying to get promoted, doing all these things because this was my career. And I did lose sight of that, you know, so that was a hard conversation to have, you know, with my wife, and her kind of like sit me down and be like, listen, I love you, but at this point, like, we're becoming more roommates than we are anything else. And that really hit hard, you know, so it is easy. It is easy to put your goals and aspirations like right at the forefront and not be there. But I will tell you, now that I'm home a lot more and I'm able to do things with my children and things like that, like, I can't believe how much I missed, right? Like that's just crazy to me that I allowed myself to do that. And I don't want it any other way, because you got to find that balance, you know, and make sure that you are there, because your kids, I mean, they're only going to grow up one time, you know, so be there for them. And I promise you, your career is not going anywhere. It'll be there for you too. You can dedicate time to both and be just fine.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm with you, man, being transparent. I've had similar conversations at home. I think, you know, especially when the teaching started, right? When you start traveling a lot, you know, you're not off, right? But you're away, right? So you come home
Right.
and, you know, I think the one thing I've learned to kind of change the most to me is that there's never enough hours in the day. Like, I don't care if you're talking about home or work, but it's real easy to bring work home and then use up your home time doing work. And so, you know, the problems at your department or the thing, you know, the task at your department you had to do, they didn't get backed up overnight, right? And so working on them for your days off is not going to catch them up, you know. And there's a time and a place to do that. We all do things on our days off to better the fire service, but at some point you got to be home. And, for me, I think something I realize that a lot of people go through is that when we're young, usually like when we get on the fire service, especially when we're young, we're dating our wives at the time, right? Like the fire service is a stable job in the family, right? It's got the benefits. It's probably got the bigger paycheck. Maybe you're going through school, whatever. And then there comes a point in time where you realize that you work for the public and you're not going to be rich, right? And then maybe your significant other is making a little more money than you, or things change a little bit, right? And I've watched that happen in my life, but it's not about that. Like you said, it's about balance, right? And so you kind of kill yourself for a few years, and then the roles switch, and it all comes full circle to me. But I say that to make the point of, like I said, you can't bring work home all the time. There's just not enough hours in the day. And like you said, man, you're going to miss so much with your kids, right? And, that fire report, I might get fussed at next day, but guess what? That shouldn't be more important than my daughter fussing at me because we didn't go kick the soccer ball in the backyard or go ride her bike. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just
Yeah, absolutely.
so easy to look past that stuff, man. It's really sad when you think about it, right? Because here you are, you're all built up, you're passionate, you're into the fire service, and you're telling people like, yeah, screw the fire service, go home and hang out with your family, right? But I mean, you can't have one without the other. And something I've noticed that's kind of cool. I've seen, Joe Yaller with Twisted Fire does it. Shane Bentley with Bearers of the Oath does it. I've seen a lot more bring your family to training weekends, right? Bring your family to our fire conference. And it's almost coming full circle to me back to the volunteer roots, right? Like that's how the volunteer department was growing up. We did family functions, the fundraisers, the cookouts, the weekends were all about family. And now we're starting to see all these guys and girls that are dedicated to the fire service doing these training weekends are like, why are we leaving our families to do this? Screw it. Bring them with us. How better for them to appreciate what we do than coming and doing it with us. But furthermore, how better for us to appreciate them and the sacrifice they make by having them come with us, right? And realizing that we're interrupting life. So I think that's cool. I hope that's a trend that continues for more people. I think it's the missing link of connecting all these, like the firehouse, home, and then outside training.
So
Yeah.
it was great. Like my wife met Sean's wife for the first time, and she was playing with his two daughters who were running around at the convention center, and it's cool. One of the best things was, I think Chief Isaacson started that with his commando officers boot camp class and bringing the spouses and stuff. And I think it's really important, the fact that they start to understand what we do and what we go through, especially at the chief officer level and the commando officer level. It's not just about stretching lines. It's about the stress of the job a little bit. And I think it's important to bring the family aspect into that. And I do like the fact that there were a ton of families out at Firehouse Expo. And,
I adopted Sean's family, right? Adopted your kids for a while.
Yeah.
Adopted your wife for a little while, I think. Whatever.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was like, you go there and you don't really know much people, and then you leave with another extension of your family. It's actually pretty nice. And for the
I got people from Texas I'm now family members with.
Yeah.
Right.
No, like John said, man, it's, you got the little kids there and you got your wives there and stuff, and it's for them. I think that's just as important to see the other side. That like, hey, at the end of this all, like, we're still families, right? And we're still just normal people. And, it's the saddest thing would be going through this career and leaving those people behind you, right? So being able to bring them along and having more opportunities to do so is just, man, it's just incredible. To me, it makes the experience, so much more enjoyable, because you're getting to share that as, a family, instead of just, oh, dad's off doing his thing, So it was a lot of fun.
So Bill's got something to add here on the family front. So grace us with your presence, Bill, man. Good to put a face with a name finally, dude.
Yeah,
It's been years.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Mark. Hey, real quick, just talking about family. About a year ago, I took a fire chief position. Crazy, right? You don't go into it thinking you want to be a chief. Going to just, I want something to be better.
Well, I'll say congratulations instead of I'm sorry, like everybody else does. Like being a fire chief is some kind of bad thing. So congratulations.
Hey, thanks. But really, it's kind of crazy. I went to a fire chiefs conference in May, and I took my wife, and they have a wife and a spouse night. But I also took my daughter along, and I had a redo after Iraq. So I got a 4-year-old daughter, and a little bit older, and that's just more time away. But I have found that by having my family as a part of my support system, I do a better job on when I'm doing things versus keeping them on the back corner, and even more so, chief of a combination department, but just having that family time, because chief of a combination department, you're always gone. Your phone never stops, so you don't get a day off on it. And so just to be able to have my wife and my daughter, and I told the conference host, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna step out, I'm gonna go and join my family a little bit. They were absolutely very gracious about it and invited my whole family to the Chiefs dinner that night. So it just was less time away from and I actually saw guys, really funny. I saw about 4 or 5 other Chiefs who had their young kids with them right there at the Chiefs dinner. And, you pick a right time to make sure you exit stage left before they do some dumb crap. Or other things get crazy in those kind of dinners. But yeah, absolutely. I think family is critical. And even more so sometimes when you're in that chief officer role, because depending on what kind of department you're on, you may not get that family time. And so, yeah, I just had to throw that in there, and always entertained by the show, guys.
Great points, man.
Thank
The other one I'll hit too that I think we forget about a lot, and Sean, we experienced it firsthand at Expo, is, man, some of the vendors in the fire service are like the greatest people on earth, man. Like the two that come to my mind, Jay Hillis with All American Hose, right? He's everywhere. And he will show you more importantly, he'll show your family a great time, man. He took care of Sean's daughters like they were his own. Chris Carson with TFT is another one that I've run into all over the place. But like, you talk about our sacrifice. These guys, I get it. They're out there to sell product and that's their job. But these guys travel. They're away from their families doing the same thing. So, get to know them, right? And don't just take their business card, right? Like I've got phone calls to make in the upcoming months to get some people in to show us some stuff, because it's not about just going out and hanging out with them and taking their business card and then, forgetting about it. Those guys, they're part of the fire service too, and those girls. So I think that's another one to bring up as part of the family, because, man, Jay, we had a freaking blast with Jay, bro. Oh my
man.
God.
Jay's wild.
Jay is wild. He's hilarious, man.
It's good though. Yeah, like you said.
We need to get him on one day and do like a vendor talk, man, because Jay, I've run into Jay is everywhere. I don't know how he does it, but he is everywhere, man. And he's a firefighter's firefighter, man. He knows the job. He sells some good stuff, and awesome dude. So
yeah, I mean, he's just a genuine dude all the way around. Like he didn't have to buy my kids ice cream and do all that stuff. I mean, heck, he took all of us out to dinner. We weren't expecting that either, So, those small gestures mean a lot too. When you're out on the road, you're traveling, and you're getting to share those experiences with everybody. So, yeah, I mean, they're sacrificing just as much as we are, and for whatever reason, that's the contribution of the fire service. And I think it's a shame that sometimes that goes unnoticed.
So one of the things that we're talking about family is, so my family, I got 5 kids. 4 of them are out of the house right now, 2 at college, 1 down in Florida, 1 up in Connecticut.
Oh, you just forget how many kids you had?
Well, I said the 4 at home, and then I got the 4 away and 1 at home. So we do a family Zoom night on Sunday nights. So we put it out there to the bigger kids so the little ones can see, and we can sort of have like an accountability of our family and see what's going on and get a good visual on it. And it's one of the things that with technology, it's helped out a lot, but at least being able to see our kids is, with 2020 was rough with the pandemic and stuff, but figuring out a way in order to connect with your kids, if you don't get a phone call every day or every other day or something like that, it's good to put eyes on them. And it's just one of those things that we came up with earlier in the year, family Zoom night, just before 8:00 on Sundays before football kicks off. So just one of those things, and family's huge for the fire service. And it's always been that way. I do like the trend in a lot of these conferences now that are coming up to include families and start to make that bridge, because it's not just about the runs that we go on, it's what we take home to the spouses. And I see Florida's been doing a great job with firefighter family support and stuff like that with the collaborative and we had Michelle on back in April of last year, and she's got another article coming out in Firehouse next month, which should be just great. I got a preview of it, and I'm looking forward to what she wrote. And you guys, I think we'll definitely have her back on the show to discuss it a little bit.
I'm going to take a brief second here. Bill, I'm sorry, I'm going to slaughter this. I don't know why everybody gives me names because I'm horrible at enunciating things I don't know, but we're going to give a shout out to the hold on, let me look before I do this every time, right? So the Kamei Fire Department in Idaho, right? Volunteer department, small city, but if you get on their social media, it's spelled K. Hold on, I just had it pulled up. Now it's gone again. Where'd it go? Kamiah. It's in Idaho. Kamei Fire Department in Idaho. Volunteer department. Their social media, bro, stellar, right? They're having like, hey, community, we're promoting people. Come hang out with us. Oh, we do some training today. Check this out. Like for a small city of volunteers, a lot of career departments can learn a lot from their social media presence. So they listen to the show. We want to give them a shout out. So thank you, Bill, for letting me know about that. And I think it's pretty cool that a couple of East Coast people are being heard out all the way out in Idaho. So for those who haven't met Chief Dennis Doan, that used to be Chief of Boise, not Boise. There's some good things going on in Idaho. Some great people out there. I guess you're the Midwest, right? So great people out in the Midwest to the west there. So just want to take a minute on that. Make sure we didn't get off that topic while Chief blessed us with some wisdom.
Hey, thanks for the reach out.
Yes, sir. All right, Duffy, what you got, man? Let's switch gears here. It's Duffy topic time. It comes with 8 rabbit holes.
That's a terrible idea.
Your volume's weird. I don't know what happened. You sound like you're in a submarine.
I'm on my phone right now, so that's probably why.
I got you.
I don't have my earbuds in with me today, so.
All right. Let's see. Can y'all hear him? It might just be me. Or John go. John left me too. So
I can hear him,
you
but
good?
it's not stellar. It
Okay.
was earlier. I'm not sure what changed.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me hopefully Sean can work out his line. Let me throw a topic out there for everybody to jump in on. And I'm gonna just talk about the elephant in the room. How bad is hiring right now? Numbers are down. Like everybody is hiring, at least down in the Southeast, everybody is hiring. Everybody. And I guess
So
getting people that want to do the job anymore.
East Idaho department over in East Idaho just did a test last weekend. Career department, 5 stations, 135 guys, and they had about 30 online and then 40 show up for the actual physical. Or 40 showed up for the written test. But here, in Idaho, a lot of guys from Washington, Oregon, California, even though we're a combination department, they're reaching out and going, I need a job. Guys are quitting over there on the big 3, looking for jobs here in Idaho. So
you guys are a combination? Did I screw it up? You're not volunteer department?
Yeah, we're a combination. They were
my
volunteer until I came on a year ago. So yeah.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
it's
So
crazy.
how many paid people you got?
7.
7. So how do you do your staffing? I'm just curious.
It's a weird schedule. It's a 48 and 5. So they work 48 hours and have 5 days off. Got a bunch of folks that kind of come out of the valley, which is about 4 hours away. And we just became or about to become, we're waiting for the state inspection. ALS, they haven't had ALS here. This is north central Idaho. So there's, our closest hospital is 40 minutes away. EMS, we cover about 6,000 folks. Fire, we cover about 3,000. Obviously we get some jobs every now and then. We get a lot of wildland stuff. That's about 5 years ago, they burned almost 100,000 acres here in Kamei and lost 100 homes. So, the wildfire stuff we get here is pretty intense. But like I said, Mark, just East Idaho did a test and about 30 or 40 guys online. And then 30 some guys showed up to actually take the written at the event center. Numbers are down. Numbers are way down.
I mean, I work in South Carolina, and I don't know a department in South Carolina that's not hiring right now. Like I really don't. If it tells you anything, Charleston, one of the most, traditional old school fire departments on the planet, just took laterals for like the first time in forever, did a condensed academy. I mean, everybody's hurting. And so I don't know if anybody's got anything to add about that. It's just an observation I made. It's scary times if you think about it, because if people aren't signing up anymore, I mean, not even on the volunteer side, but the career side as well. I mean, the call's got to be run, right? And you can only run guys so many hours.
I'll tell you what's weird for us over the last, we'll say maybe three years. We've had like 6 guys come in. They're like mid 30s to 50. We're not getting any youth. We're getting people coming in, but they're all older guys, and some of them have no prior experience at all.
We're seeing that too.
It's odd. I mean, it's cool. I just posted about it recently. Like there's a lot of enthusiasm, and it comes with a lot of maturity, so it's cool. But it's really weird.
This is what I chalk that up to, and this is, again, there's no scientific method behind this. This is the twisted mind of Mark is all this is. But we've pushed so many like cubicle jobs and degree level jobs and not doing anything with your hands, and I think people get out into that private sector and they freaking hate it. And so it takes them, they push on for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and they're like, screw this. And then, they want to go do something else. And while I hate it, at the same time, man, it makes training a lot easier to have people with life experience that have been to something else, appreciate a good job with stable benefits, a flexible schedule, and actually feeling accomplished when you do something, the actual service of it. I think it goes a long way in the training. I almost don't know, and I laugh because most of us came through when we were 16, 17 years old, right? But I just don't know that you have the most people these days, because things have changed. I don't know that they have the maturity at that age to be part of that, right? Even the military is a struggle. It takes somebody 18, but that's a much different process than our training. But I think the results are better to a degree, but I think there is some animosity there. You get a lot of people trying to play catch up of, oh, I'm 30, right? I gotta promote as fast as I can. I'm making up for lost time kind of thing. But no, I think that's what it is, EJ, honestly, is that people they got in the private sector and they that's what they were told to do. That's my generation, right? We were told, go get a degree, go get a job with computers, blah, 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 blah. And you get out there and realize there's no freaking jobs, right? They suck.
The other aspect of that is they start pulling all the trades out of the schools.
Yeah,
right?
That's horrible.
They pulled all the trades out of the schools, and now they're slowly starting to bring them back in under what they call it STEM, right? Science, technology, math, and there's something else in there.
But it's always in a weird way.
Engineering. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and again, I think that's the reintroduction of some of the wood shop and we're getting guys come on the job that have no idea how to use screwdrivers properly.
Yeah, it's not even a power tool, right? Like a manual hand
tool. How many times do we rebuild like something, make a go-kart or some other, we got an old bike that we take it apart and then try and put it back together and make something better. And obviously we have spare parts and everything else. But I think that's what's missing in this youth's fire service. What's coming out now is it's more of a technology based, which is good because we're never going to lose technology. We're just going to incorporate that more and more into the fire service. I just see the way the path is going with that. And, forget about paper, we're still killing trees left and right up by me, but everything's going paperless. And
is it though? Is it really going paperless? Or is that just I'm sorry, there's more paper now than there ever was pre-paperless. I've
got redundancy for reports that are going in. And
I can't read off a screen for that long. I need paper in my hand. I don't know.
It's funny. The offgoing chief that I relieve, I sit down to put my my morning roster up, and the font is like 88, and I'm like, whoa! I gotta zoom it back. I'm like, all right, hey Kev, how about glasses? Right? He's just like, shut up, kid. He's not much older than me, but he just, you're right. It's tough to stare at a screens all day long. And
I'll
again,
tell you a funny story, John, like on what you're talking about, right? So we bought a new house in July, and we decided we didn't like the appliances that came with it. And by some act of God in Congress, we found both, we found appliances that were in stock, right, during the COVID era. Like, that's impossible. And so we bought a dishwasher, and my wife's like, "Oh, you're gonna pay them to install, right?" I'm like, "No, it's $150." And she's like, "Yeah, but you don't know how to do it." I'm like, "It's a drain and a plug, right? Like, I can figure this out."
We can
Now,
figure this out. Don't worry
I
about
will
it. I might get
admit-
shocked, but we're
I
going to
will
figure
admit
this
the
out.
project took slightly longer than I would have preferred, but that's because I realized that the people that installed the one before me didn't do it right. So I had to refigure it out, right? I just put up a little retaining wall around our flower beds. I guarantee you it would have been every bit of $2,500, $3,000 for some landscaping company to come do that. But guess what? Do I know how to do it perfect? No. Is there some flaws in it? Absolutely. But I did it myself. I saved a ton of money, and I learned something in the process. So the next time I do it, it'll be better. And I think you're going to see that come full circle because, man, you got welders right now making 6 figures to start. If you can weld underwater, you're balling. I promise you. Like, that underwater welders is like the biggest thing right now. But welders, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, like all these trades, that's going to be my backup plan. When I retire from the fire service, if that ever happens, I'm going to go learn how to weld. I promise you.
We got a local shop right now that's offering $10,000 signing bonus for diesel mechanic.
Yeah. And it's going to have to happen though, because eventually there's not going to, like, we as a society have gotten so used to calling somebody to fix everything that when there's nobody left to fix it, like, something's going to have to give, right? And I laugh. We talked about this. I'm taking Fire Officer 3 these 2 weeks, right? And so we talked about, cost savings and things like that. And we talked about how many departments now that you can't even change a light bulb or fix something on the engine. You have to call facilities or you have to call fleet, right? Like, to change any minor thing that back in the day, the firefighters would have taken care of. And so now we just rely on everybody. So what happens when you call and there's nobody there? Like you said, the diesel mechanics, right? What happens when there's nobody left to fix our fire engine? We're going to have to figure it out some way, shape, or form, right? And I'm sure there's people better than that than others, but it's interesting to me how everything kind of changes. So, but I wanted to bring that up. I was just curious how testing was going and how applications were going in other parts of the country, because it seems like every time I get on social media or I talk to anybody, we're hiring. And it's just like a constant cycle.
I was talking to a guy in Philly the other night, and he's going through the promotional process, I think, for lieutenant, and it's all virtual, like nothing's in person, which just sounded really, really weird, especially with the orals, like to not be able to, see people's reactions or kind of get that visual feedback or cues. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine how doing that whole process, or even the written part. He said, like, he's in a room taking the test, and then there's like a proctor that has to sit there next to him to make sure that
cheat or
like
whatever.
he's not using there's nobody else in the room because they're watching him on a webcam take the test. They're watching everybody take the test, but then he still has to have somebody in his room making sure that there isn't somebody else feeding him stuff that the camera can't see. Like, it's just weird.
I will say I've sat on a couple interview panels during COVID that were virtual, and they were able to see us, which was good. It is a different feel. It's a much different feel, but I almost, in a weird way, especially with this generation being so tech savvy, I kind of feel like it was easier for them than the in-person stuff, because people are really uncomfortable now doing anything in person anymore, especially after COVID. But I did an assessment center for another department too, and they had to go through their initial size up and actions of a scenario, based on their area. But they were able to see us. It was kind of like this format where you had everybody's picture, and so they were able to see on one screen the scenario and the maps and things. They were able to see the evaluators on the other screen. We were able to interact. So I think it's come a long way. But I'm with you. It is a much different feel, and I almost wonder, when we go to work, it's all in person, right? When we treat people on a scene, we interact with the public, it's in person. And I almost wonder if you lose the ability to gauge how somebody could do that by putting them on a camera versus putting them in a room, because I've sat on both, and it's a different feel. You can't, I don't know how to put it, but you can almost feel it as an interviewer, right? Like the aura of the person when they come in the room. You can feel if they're nervous, if they're confident, if they're arrogant, if they got swagger, whatever. But that kind of gets taken away. And I've watched people do the virtual thing that I think would have done really good in person, but because I've known them, or you know what I mean, people like them, and they did horrible on the virtual thing, because I think you don't, like you said, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know how it's coming across, kind of thing. So
Interesting.
it's a good point, man. So John had to step out for me, EJ, so it's me and you, brother. I want to talk about morale for a little bit here, in training coming back. Well,
That's a good one.
well, it's funny, morale is morale, right? It is what it is. And, I firmly believe that we rely way too much on administration to administrate morale to us. Like, I think that's hilarious to me, how people, whenever you talk about morale, it always comes back to what the fire chief is or is not doing, right? And that plays a role in it, absolutely. But I just feel like the COVID era morale is down, and people have there's too many convenient excuses right now to not do anything, right? And I'll be honest with you, my motivation for the past probably 6 months has been in the toilet, right? I'm somebody who would arguably, you would think, is I'm into the job every day, right? But it's all I can do to work out at work right now. Like, I'm just not there. It's just, and I can't explain what it is. It's just a very odd phenomenon. But I will say that being able to travel again and go into some classes again has kind of helped that out. And I think that was kind of missing. I think that those little things being taken away are what was keeping the motivated people hanging on by a thread, right? When we took away the ability to be around like-minded people, it kind of really revealed just how much work we have left to do. But I was really amped up yesterday. I keep the dashboards for work that are out in the bay and stuff, and the information screens. And one of the slides I do is outside training opportunities, because I want to encourage our people to go and experience things outside our fire department, outside our state fire academy, right? Both great resources, but I just want them to go meet other people, because that's been beneficial in my career. But when I started making this list of events coming up, like, there is so much good stuff coming down the pipe. And that was without a lot of dates for things for 2022 that haven't come yet, right? That was out without Nozzle Forward's calendar being out. Fort Lauderdale Fire Conference hasn't, I think, posted yet. But between county fire tactics, the big three conferences, Interschutz is coming, as well in 2022. Local stuff, MAFC, North Florida Fire. Like, I got down to there's 20 classes I got listed. There are just 20 big conferences, that I've got listed out. And that's not counting the guys at Magic City Truck Academy, the guys at Twisted Fire, right? The 350 line, like all these places I haven't put out yet. So I feel like there's a lot of promising stuff out there, but we need to really kind of give ourselves a kick in the ass again and reset and be like, okay, COVID's here, right? We know it's here. It's time to move forward, get our head out of our asses again, and get back to being firefighters. What do you guys think?
I
Yeah,
completely agree.
I'll
Go
put
ahead,
in my
John.
2 cents on that. I think when we put all the restrictions on training and told people, hey, you got to stay 6 feet apart, we can't do this, we can't do that, that just gave an excuse for the lazy people, the mutts, if you want to call it, to just continue to be the way they are without really no significant ramifications, right? So now all the progress I felt that we were making kind of got paused, right? And we're sitting here and we want to continue, we want to move forward, and we want to keep training and do all these things, but literally at every corner you were halted. No, you can't go to this training because we're not going to allow you to have air pack, or you can't bring our gear, or if you go to this training, you're going to use your own sick time to quarantine, or whatever it was, because everybody was so afraid. Well, we're not in that situation anymore. Things, in my opinion, are very different now, and we're starting to open up and do all those things, but you still find the same excuses of why people don't want to train, or why they don't want to go to these conferences and get educated. And it's an incredibly frustrating thing. And as far as morale goes, for anybody that's motivated, man, that's a huge hurdle. All of the things that you look forward to doing and that you want to do are literally still being fought. And I think that, now is the time to where we got to say, hey, this thing's not really looking like it's going anywhere, we're just going to go back to business as usual. We'll stay safe and we'll do the best we can. But we as a fire service can no longer halt our forward progress by making excuses of why we can't train. It's just not acceptable. It's not fair to anybody in the fire service, and it's certainly not fair to our citizens to just be status quo and expect that, you know, the level of our performance is going to greatly improve when we don't put anything into it, you know? So that's just my 2 cents on it.
And the double standard of we're going to run calls still, but you can't train for those calls, right? We're going to be exposed to each other during runs and at the fire station, but training is going to spread, you know. And I'm not going to get into the COVID thing because I'm quite honestly, I'm just sick of it, right? And, you know, obviously people are sick. It's a bad time. I get it. But like you said, Sean, like eventually you have to learn to live with it, right? And, you know, on the fire side, though, I think what COVID revealed to us, honestly, is I think it's really easy for those of us who do go to outside training and get in on all the, you know, the motivational social media and stuff like that. I think it revealed just how much work we have left to do. I think that outside training kind of hit its peak for me probably about 2 years ago. I think it was everywhere, right? If you were on social media, it was everywhere. There was a grassroots conference popping up everywhere. And I think we got a little arrogant with it and a little cocky, like we were making a lot more progress than we were. And then COVID happened and kind of like, you know, I call it 10-80-10, John calls it 20-60-20, right? Whatever you want to call it. But I think we had shifted the middle of our departments during that time. And then COVID showed us just how easily it is to influence them and shift them back to the other end when there's no, you know, there's no reason to go out and train. There's no reason to go beyond. When you have an excuse to slack, that middle is going to shift. And I think we just got cocky about it. And those of us that are really pushing hard to make things better and, you know, improve the fire service, we got to remember it's not just about us. It's about influencing that middle because we live or die by the middle, whether we like it or not. And you can't just write them off, right? You've got to bring them into the middle. EJ, what you got, brother?
Yeah, so I mean,
so go ahead.
I think what
EJ,
Sean
go
said
ahead.
was, thanks, John. What Sean said was spot on. You know, I couldn't have said it any better. Mark, speaking to the morale side, I mean, it's for me, it's huge. I don't feel like I fit in at my department. And you know, if anybody in my department ever watches this, I'm not calling you out as being, you know, bad people or bad firefighters. It's just, I don't know. And you know, maybe it's me. But I just don't feel like-minded. You know, I've connected more maybe with a couple people more personally, but not as a group. So for me to get out and get those exterior training opportunities and to lose that was huge. Not only from a morale standpoint, but from, you know, a craft standpoint too. I mean, you know, there's 2 great conferences in Harrisburg a year. I went out for their forcible entry class. I mean, I went through 63 doors in one day. Like, where else are you going to get that? And walk away with meeting some awesome guys that, you know, some of them I stayed in touch with. You know, and it is finally coming back around. You know, this kind of goes back to what we were talking earlier about with families and stuff like that. You know, I do really bad at managing it. You know, I don't. You know, I come home, my wife is my sounding board, you know, so if it's a bad meeting or something, you know, somebody annoyed me that late, you know, I come home and, you know, she's who I vent to, but that's all she hears, you know, because you know, she's not going to appreciate if I come home, like, you should have seen the guys hit the hydrant tonight. Like, it was flawless. You know, so we don't have those positive conversations. So, you know, for her, it's kind of weird because it's like, it's volunteer, right? You remember that? Like, why do you volunteer for all this aggravation? But yeah, so on the morale side, to get out and do that training, and it's starting to come back around. You know, our in-house training is getting better, which is cool. I'm doing truck ops right now, exterior, which is a lot of fun working with different people. But yeah, it's needed, and it's just got to go back to. I hate to say that new normal term, but you know, we got to get back.
I hate that term too. If it makes you feel any better.
But you're right, EJ, and about what Sean was saying. It was so easy for that middle 80 or that middle 60 to slide to the other side. But my volunteer firehouse, they shut the firehouse down. You couldn't go into the firehouse. You ran your run, you came in, you disinfected, you sprayed the back of the rigs, the apparatus, your turnout gear, and you walked out the door.
How
Same.
asinine is that though? Like we thought
Same.
that,
But I'll tell you right now, Mark, we were in the Northeast. We were the epicenter for this, and we had no clue what was going on.
no, I get it, but like in retrospect, like how did that make sense to me at the time? You know what I
They
mean?
were
Like,
just
it's
trying to keep
it's so-
everybody as healthy as possible with that. And then even at the work aspect of it, we minimize the number of guys that could eat. We have a 12-person house. All right, we'll brown down to probably 7, but on average, we have at least 10 in the station. And we were told no more than 8 in a room. Guys were eating up in their bedrooms by themselves. The biggest thing in the fire service was having meals. We always ate breakfast together. Lunch was haphazard because guys were training and the 2 engines were doing one thing. The truck was doing different. The battalion's out on the road, and dinner was always together. And now we're fractured. Now we're all over the place. And some guys are in the TV room. Some guys are in the kitchen. Other guys are upstairs. Some guys are on their phone. But we lost that. And, it got down to the point where they actually said you can't have more than 8 chairs in the kitchen area at the kitchen table. And, so now I come in, I count 9 because the guys are watching TV and they look at me. I'm like, there's certain battles I'm going to fight with the administration, and there's certain ones that I'm going to battle with my guys. It's not one I'm going to battle with my guys. I knew who was sick already, who was already this and that. And all right, here's my last thing on COVID. Is anybody asking about the natural antibodies from the people that have been sick? I haven't heard one argument
Bro,
yet.
Don't
Where
get
they-
me.
I'm just going to throw it out there. Listen, I was sick. I was really sick. I got the shot. I'm not going for a booster. I'm going to go for a blood test. Tell me my number of antibodies.
That
Tell me
should
my
be the
quantitative number.
first
And then
thing
if
we
I need a
do.
booster, give me the booster.
That should be the first thing we do besides anything.
What's going on? What happened we did this with hep. We did this with hepatitis. All right, sign the declination. All right, you don't want it. Oh, hey, check your booster, check your titer. Oh, you don't have it, you get the booster. All right. Why aren't we doing this? And nobody's talking about this. I'm not the smartest one in the room. Absolutely not, ever, at any time. But I'm not even hearing this discussed anywhere. Check your antibodies before. Oh, no, we're just going to do automatic blind boosters. No.
As much as I want to jump down your rabbit hole, I want all of us to have gainful employment in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and shift back to something EJ said.
Okay, fine.
But hey,
About
Mark,
fitting it. Go ahead,
just
Bill.
real quick. Hey, you know what? I have to 100% fully agree with one of the worst things we did in the fire service in the last 2 years of all this, and that is shut down training. And whether you got training virtual, whether you got training by hands-on, whether you were able to do some hot stuff in your own house, whatever. The worst thing we did is say, hey, go look at Target Solutions. Hey, go look at Rescue 911 Academy. If you read Billy's stuff that comes out all the time, right, about line of duty and close calls, and if you look at the NOASH reports and all those other things that pop up, usually the top 3 things right off the bat are what killed firefighters or significantly injured them. Number one, lack of communication. Number 2, a lack of a formal command structure. And number three, lack of standardized training to enforce nationally accepted standards or practices. As a chief, I'll throw this out, the risk management, what is greater? The fact that I don't let anybody do a RIT course because I'm worried about COVID and getting it in their mask? That's why everybody's got their own damn mask, right? That was the worst thing we did, was shut down training. Because now we've got firefighters. We're already struggling with firefighters in the culture as a whole with obesity, but now we've let them all eat at McDonald's and Burger King because we couldn't have mom and pop restaurants open. The worst thing we did was shut down training, less physical activity, less relationship and networking and trusting with one another, less, everybody's learning off of how to stretch an attack line off of this device versus getting out and doing it with multi-company. So I just had to throw it out there. I have been pushing for training nonstop since I got here. Our guys, I'm just going to throw out there. We did department-wide about 2,000 hours of training this year, hands-on and virtual. Got to do a little bit of that. But the worst thing we did was shut down hands-on training. So I'm glad to see this come back, and I think we need to push this more and having these discussions and getting guys back to getting into the bunker gear to get dirty when it's not officially getting dirty.
Well said.
Those are my 2 cents.
So I want to run back to what EJ said real quick, and then I'm gonna send this on probably our last rabbit hole for the night, John. We've been going for about 90 minutes now, and I figured a little extra time for the summer hiatus. But EJ, you said something I think about often, and that's I don't fit in with my department. And I talk to a lot of people that are really into the fire service that share that sentiment. So I'm gonna throw this at you. I think it's twofold. I think one, it's not as bad as we perceive it. I think we're kind of self-conscious about it because we know we're a little different. But then on the flip side, I think there's some truth behind it, right? But I just the amount of people that say that I don't fit in my department, right? But there is no draft, right? There's no like NHL draft where we set up like this killer like fire department team where we get to take all the hard chargers, right? And if we did, we'd never get anything done because we'd all fucking hate each other, right? We'd all eventually find something to disagree about. But I want to use that to go back to what the rabbit hole we kind of avoided in the earlier, John, that I think we should end it on. And that's the topic of brotherhood and the free admission and the instant revocation, right? And I think if you look at, the biggest department, the best department on the planet, arguably by most people, and John's going to laugh, right? FDNY. But, I guarantee you there's people that show up at FDNY that suck every day and don't want to be there and don't want to train and do those things, right? There's every other job on the planet has, people that are dedicated and people that aren't. My wife does mortgages, right? You think everybody in the mortgage industry wakes up in the morning ready to close your loan that day? No, they don't give a shit. They want to make your money, right? And so, I'll throw that topic to you guys. What have we, as we said in the beginning, have we gotten to a point where once somebody gets voted in or signs on the magic line with HR that you're automatically part of the brotherhood? I think what I would say is I think you should give everybody the benefit of the doubt and trusting them until they prove you wrong. But I think maybe you got to put a little labor in. I thought that was the whole point of probation myself, was that you had to put a little labor in so we could kind of size you up and see if you were worthy of being part of this family that was, built on work and, like John said, trust and respect and all those things versus, oh, well, you're on the fire department now, so you're part of it. So, I'll throw it back to you guys. What do you think?
Well, I'll throw something in there, Mark. I mean, I agree with EJ. I don't necessarily feel as if I 100% fit in with my agency either. But there's one thing that I have learned, and what I have learned is that sometimes people just don't know how to take you. They don't know how to take your passion or your ambition or anything like that. And because it's new, their first reaction is to distance themselves from it. But by staying dedicated to it and coming in and having that consistency day in and day out and saying like, hey, this is me. I respect you for who you are. You're going to either like me or you're not. I mean, that's just life. You'll find that a lot of that stuff will start to go away because you wind up connecting with other people on different levels. Like, we are so passionate that we want everybody to feel the same way we do because we love the job, but that is just not reality. Not everybody is going to feel the same way we do or have the same ambitions. And, when you can learn to connect with them on a different level, maybe that's not fire service related, you'll actually find out like the assumptions that we make about each other in the fire service are often skewed and they're not real. And I'm not saying that's 100% of the time, but I have looked at people and been like, man, this guy is just a turd, and spending time with them and just listening to them and understanding what makes them tick. And you can relate to that. You find out that the people you work with, you have more in common with than you realize. You just haven't had those conversations yet because everybody is dead set on, finding faults with one another instead of finding common ground. So don't let it beat you. Just come into work, do your thing, work hard and impact whatever little change you can. And I promise you, like, you are going to outlast that negativity. And who knows, man, like, you might actually gain a few followers in the process. But if we just turn that blind eye and just kind of say, hey, whatever, the hell with it, I'm done with you, we're not going to make any progress. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, EJ, I'll exactly what Sean says. And I use that, I call it the sphere of influence. You know, you're able to influence a certain amount of people by within who we are and within our rank structure. You may have to put a little time into certain people. Obviously, you're never going to go and give 110% for the person that's never going to listen to you, but you got to put that time into the person that is sitting on that fence and give it a little bit and see where it goes. And the best part is if you were able to influence one and one starts to influence another, and that's where that sphere of influence starts to grow. And again, as an officer, you have a little bit bigger sphere of influence to get your drills done and everything else within your own control. But again, to change the culture, it's a long uphill road, but you have to grab the ones that are going to assist you along the way. And that's
Absolutely.
That's how it's going to get built.
Absolutely. You know, and I don't go in with a negative attitude. You know, I don't have issues with anybody. You know, we all get along. You know, and part of it, you know, so I didn't get into this till I was like in my mid 30s. And part of it's me mentally too, like even in my day job. Like, I don't know, I never went to Christmas parties. You know, like it's nothing against everybody. You know, it's not my gig. You know, I mean, it's you need anything, you call me, I will be there. You know, that's not an issue. But you know, I'm not just I don't know. It's weird. I tend to I guess I kind of keep like home is home. You know, I don't share it as much. I go in, I do my job. You know, I can check stuff at the door when I go in. That's no big deal. Yeah, and it's weird because you know I do. You know, I'm passionate about it. I love it. You know, it's weird. I do the training, but a lot of times I don't even think people realize that I'm doing all this training. You know, I just kind of I sneak it in when I can and just pass it along and that's it. So, you know, unless I think you have that same drive, I'm not sharing it. Like I said, it's weird. You know, I'll spend, you know, after drill night, you know, sitting around one or two people and it's usually different people or, you know, and people will call me on the phone. It's just not this, you know, the collective, you know, the whole brotherhood thing that everybody talks about it as a group. So I don't know. It's just a really weird dynamic, but, yeah, I don't let it beat me down. It's just, you know, something that every once in a while you got to have a group like this as a sounding board to, you know, work through it or just, you know, just vent.
Yeah, man. You know, Sean, I think something you brought up that's, you know, something I've kind of started to learn in the back half of my career is that we usually show up and we assume that the fire service is going to be the common ground with everybody in the fire service. And I just don't know that that's true. You know, some people volunteer for different reasons than others. Some people are employed for different reasons than others. But there's a big difference between somebody that's disinterested in the fire service versus somebody who's just not absorbed in it like we are, right? And as long as you come to work and do your job and take it seriously, like it's not my place to judge you because you don't have the same, you know, enthusiasm for it that I do. And that's really hard for us to understand. But if you flip it to something that you kind of enjoy in your life, but you aren't, you know, like I like to golf. I suck at it, right? I'll go golf anytime with anybody, but I'm not going to rearrange my schedule to do it. And that's the fire service. Some people, right? They enjoy doing it, but there's other things they enjoy more in their life. And we have to be open to that. And all I'm really asking from you is that, you know, again, I've had to learn this. I've had to mature and understand that I don't need you to train for 8 hours every day. Right. I don't like to train for 8 hours. Now, if we have a good group of people and we can throw down for 8 hours here and there, hey, that's awesome. But that shouldn't be the goal. Right. I need 1 or 2 hours to refresh on something. And I need you to be present and efficient and competent when we run calls. And beyond that, what you do with your time is none of my freaking business, if we're being honest. I sat up with a guy at work last night and we watched the Braves game till like midnight. Right. And me and him are very different people, right? But this dude, he's just we're just much different personalities. He's a great dude, right? But I've watched him work, right? I believe that he likes the fire service, right? He expresses it differently than me, but But me and him had a great conversation about baseball, and we cheered and we booed and we did all these things together at the firehouse, and they had nothing to do with firefighting. But that builds brotherhood, that builds family, that builds camaraderie, right? Because let's be honest, you just can't do fire 24/7. I know that sounds hypocritical, especially from a platform like this, but we go back to what you guys brought up in the very beginning. That's balance, right? And maybe the problem is not that people don't love the fire service. Maybe it's just that we're out of balance and we all need to figure out how to get back to center. So I think I'm going to end my thoughts there for the night. You guys got any closing thoughts to lay down before we hit the button here?
No, I think you hit it right, and I'm glad we're finally back on track regarding our webcast, and hopefully we come up with a whether somebody for next month or we just again go on a riff. But it's getting back to normal. We need that, and we need a routine. The fire service is based on routines. We love routines, and let's get back on it. Good job. It was awesome to see Mark and Sean again out at Firehouse, and looking forward to seeing you guys again, definitely in North Florida. So I'm going to spend a little time in Florida. I'll be bouncing from the Orlando Fire Conference and then wheeling up to North Florida. We got picked up to teach the elevator class this year. So so we're happy about that. So we'll be down teaching at the Orlando Fire Conference, and I'll be up seeing you two up in North Florida. So
Awesome.
guys,
Yeah.
stay safe.
I just want to say thanks to everybody. This whole thing started as a way for all of us to kind of come together and just talk about what's going on in the fire service and how we feel. And without everybody kind of coming on here, it's just three friends talking, and we talk about this stuff all the time. So it's nice to see some new faces and familiar faces as well, and hopefully we can keep it going. And as for you, John, I'll see you at Orlando Fire Conference too. I just got told today that we're going to be teaching SCBA confidence. So
Awesome. Good job.
yeah,
Congrats.
thank you. We'll see you there. So to everybody else, thanks for coming back, and hopefully we can keep this thing rolling now that we're not on a hiatus.
EJ, our bonus guest, our bonus host that pops in from time to time, our OG viewer, right?
Yeah, no, first of all, Sean, hey, I want to say congrats on a great read on the SCBA stuff recently. That was pretty good. I like that. Appreciate the opportunity to chat here. I know I've said this to John. I'm pretty sure I've said this to Mark that I feel super guilty because this is a super great program and I love these nights. And I won't tell anybody close to me about it because it's my sounding board. It's my safe place.
That's good though. That's good. That's what it should be,
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to see, just continuing to see this develop and where it's going, and hopefully maybe over the next year get a chance to hit some of these conferences and meet you guys and hang with you in person and soak up the knowledge.
Well, you're gonna have to knock out Dixon as John's +1 for that to happen. So
Oh, come on. Listen, we had a blast. We had such a good time. We went to Buca de Beppo. We had Chief Turpak. We had Chief Schaefer from Boston. We had Jeremy Bishop from Texas. We had a million people that went out to dinner. My father was out, and Amy came out. It's just a good time. You'll never. Nobody will say no to you at these conferences, and that's the best part. It's the classroom after the classroom. It's the tailboard talk, and it's just getting to know great people that are passionate about their job. And for everybody that's in here tonight and coming back to us after a couple of months of we'll call it a hiatus, but it's great. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing keep the pressure on. Keep pushing the needle. And EJ, you'll be there teaching sooner or later. You've got really great stuff on your building system, so keep pushing it.
I'm going to give my shameless plug for the night. The Fire Inside has a bunch of stickers that need to be sold. So you head over to the website. Christmas is coming. The mail is slow. Now is the best time to order, right? As always, 20% goes to charity to the next run, which if you don't know about the next run, go look them up. I got the opportunity to teach right after Blake Sinnett, who runs the next run down here in Georgia. great dude, great cause, great people. So check them out, even if you don't want a sticker from me. I'm working on some t-shirts. Hopefully, they probably won't be here for Christmas, but hopefully first of the year we get that on track. As far as the webcast goes, I think moving forward, if you understand anything about scheduling, trying to get all 4 of us on at the same time is a scheduling nightmare, let alone figuring a guest on top of that. So going forward, if we get all 4 of us, that'll be the goal, but it'll probably be 1 or 2 of us just so we can at least have something going up each month. With that being said, I think we all kind of agreed that while we would love to have some of the big names on this webcast, we really are interested in maybe some unknown or lesser known people that have a really good message and want to get it out there. If you have any suggestions for guests, people you think would be great to come on here, have a passion, have a platform, have a topic, please let us know. Equal opportunity. I would love to have anybody on here that wants to better the fire service, whether they teach at FDIC every year or they've never taught a formal class. Anybody who's got something good to say about our fire service is welcome here. So please hit us up on our personal social media. You can email the Fire Inside page. I think the link's on the Unlock Your Culture webcast page to do that. So I'm really looking forward to getting this going again. I'm like everybody else. I think it helps just to kind of be around like-minded people, have these conversations. So with that being said, I'm going to do the usual. I'm going to end the recording. We got a few names I actually don't recognize on that participant list tonight. So if you're not aware, usually we do the Unlock Your Culture after dark after this, where we darken the recording and let you say things that you're worried about getting fired for. So thank you for everybody for attending. I think this was a great conversation. I'm glad Sean was able to make it on, and hopefully we can grab Pablo from Fatherhood next month and get his majestic face back on here. So with that being said, everybody have a great night. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, guys.